Welcome YouTube. This video I'm processing some brass. So this is the first time I've actually purchased fired brass. I've always picked it up, range pickup or whatever, and I've just not had that time to pick up range brass. I've been going to some indoor ranges when I get to go, and they don't allow pickup because they sell the brass. But anyway, I purchased 2009 millimeter. That came in the mail today. And what I do when I process brass is, this is not cleaned. There's going to be, a little, probably some nickel in here. Let's see if there's spotted a nickel. Yeah, there's a nickel case. This has probably been fired before because it's got a brass colored primer in it. But this is probably more than once fired brass. I'm sure it is. It comes from a range. There's probably some Glock brass in there. It's dirty, still got the primer, so the first thing I do is I decap and resize with a Lee resizing die. And then from there, once I decap and resize, and these are not lubed. I didn't have to lube them because they're actually dirty. So that's going to, with that carbon and whatever, they're not dirty, but they're from an indoor range. So that's going to apply some free lubricant for that die. And then I'll clean my die when I'm finished. But I'll decap, resize at the same time. And then it goes in my little tumbler bin that's going to go in my Harbor Freight tumbler. And I've got some steel pins in here. So I'm sure everyone's familiar with the steel pins. And that's what I do. I clean them real good. I run them for about an hour to 2 hours, and then from there, I'll do the closer inspection. I'm inspecting somewhat now, and if I see some bad ones, we'll cull those out. But I'm not doing a whole lot of detailed inspection yet. That comes after they're clean because they're dirty. I wear gloves. There's still lead residue, stuff like that. So it's pretty important we get the cases clean, so that way we can really get down to our inspection and make sure that brass is okay to reload and fire again. So, but I'm kind of broke down and bought this brass. Like I said before, it's the first time I've ever purchased used brass before. I bought new brass, but never at a bulk rate. And I got this from a guy online. We email back and forth. Seems like a real great guy. And I got 1,000 for $20. And I think my total, I ordered 2,000. I think my total for payment fees and all that was about $47, $48. So not too bad. Now normally I got a little bit faster method of doing this, but with the camera in the way, it's kind of hard to do that. And this is a newer press to me. I normally use the single stage, so it's a little bit more user friendly than using this turret press, which I like the turret, but I wore out my old press, so I needed to upgrade. So this is going to be my go-to press. Give me a little drink of sweet tea there. But anyway, I got a lot to process, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out. I'm going to decap them, resize them. I've got 2.5 pounds of pins in this bin, 2.5 pounds of pin in this bin. I'll fill these bins up to about right here, almost full. Then I'll add hot water, and then I'll tumble them, and I'll put some Dawn in there, dishwashing liquid, and let them tumble. I may put some citric acid, which is Lemmy Shine. That's all that is citric acid. So you don't want to put a whole lot. It's going to discolor your brass because the acidity is going to basically kind of break it down a little bit. But it's a mild acid. You could use vinegar. It's the same principle. Just don't use as much. It's a little bit stronger than that citric acid. So we're going to fill these bins up. It's going to take me quite a while to process this and tumble it and let it dry. And it's been a long time since I've had to do this, because the last time I processed was on my single stage press, and I think I processed brass for probably about a week, on and off a little bit every day, tumbling, drying. Then came the sorting process. I used to sort all my brass. I may or may not sort some of this, but not all of it. And then I put it in a container, which is normally my go-to containers are going to be like a Folgers coffee can, you know, because these, I drink a lot of coffee. These are free, so I reuse them. Sometimes I'll use old detergent things. I think this was like some Tide or something came in here. It may have been when they first started producing those Tide pods. So I got that. And then, you know, I've got bigger containers of coffee. So this one's empty, but I normally put the trim brass. But I've got several different containers, and then I mark my containers based on where they are in the process. So I don't really need a container for my range brass because I've got it in this bag. I'm just going to keep it in the bag till I process through it. And I'm going to deprime and then tumble when these two are full. Now if I continue depriming and sizing, I'm going to take those and I'll put them in another coffee can, and that would be size and deprime. That'd be one stage. And so I'd fill that up. And then when these get done, they would dry, and then they'd go in another container, which would be, you know, the third stage, which is, you know, ready to trim, inspect, and all that. So, but basically, I don't inspect in one process. The inspection phase goes across every process, all the way down to loading, because you may find some mistake at the very end after you seat the bullet. It's possible. So there's not one stage where you're just going to inspect. It's going to be out through all stages. But make sure you label your containers. That's important, because you want to know when you pick that container up and look at that brass, what have I done to it and what needs to be done. And I use paper for that. I'll just tear off a scrap sheet of paper and I'll write where it's at, and then needs this, you know, next process this. And then I just drop it in the container, put the lid on it. I don't write it on the outside because I may use the container for another round or for something else. So I constantly just use paper. So this is a long process. To me, it's probably the process I hate the most. I mean, there's nothing worse than sizing and depriming, cleaning, trimming, and all that. I mean, this is the workload of the loading process. To me, you may like it, but it's the aggravation that comes from hand loading. So, and I mean, if you want speed in reloading processes, this is the place to do it, is when you're resizing and decapping. I mean, if you're looking to increase productivity, this is where you want to do it at. You don't want to do it in any other stage. I see a lot of people, you know, they're trying to increase productivity, which is a natural thing to do. I mean, we as humans, we want to increase productivity, and that's why we buy progressive presses or turret presses. But probably on every video you've ever seen me shoot, I don't have the auto index brought in here because I use everything as a single stage. And that's only because I like to take my time and make sure it's, you know, it's done right, and I'm confident when I go to shoot. You know, especially if I have a process laid down. So if you're going to try to increase productivity, this is the place to do it. Don't try to do it any other time. You know, if you've got powder drops right and you're cranking that handle out, you're trying to move those rounds out. You know, they have shell kickers you can buy now as accessories to kick these off. I mean, that's well and good, but this is not a hobby that you want to take lightly and just crank out a lot of stuff. You know, if you don't have the patience or the time to hand load and do it correctly, I would suggest you just buy your ammo. Just go buy brand new manufactured ammunition. Because mistakes happen when we get in a hurry. And if you're gonna be in a hurry on something, this is the place to do it. Don't do it in any other process. You know, if you're charging, flaring, you're seating bullets, or even, you know, crimping. You know, this is 4 stages here. I'm an auto index kind of guy. Now that's not to mean that I won't do that later, because I don't have any kind of powder dispenser that will work with this press as auto index. I didn't buy the kit, I just bought the press. So kind of a nice press. I'm still getting used to it. It's got a heck of a long stroke. I'm not really used to that. And I probably, if I redesign another table, I will make it so I can shorten this throw handle. But you can only shorten so much because it's got a bend to it. And that's only to miss it from the auto index portion. Yeah, I'll resize that one. So take your time. I'm not lining up there. There we go. I think I got a little dirt on my shell plate. Now let's try it. Yeah. So you can see I've got a ton of brass to process. Well, maybe not a ton, but several pounds. And it's going to take me a while. So I'm basically doing this in small batches. And then we'll see, depending on how I like the brass. I may sort it by manufacturer, I may not. It all depends on how I'm going to load it and all that cool stuff. Every once in a while, it's a good habit. Check your die. Make sure you're getting good contact with the shell plate, because sometimes these dies can back out. It's possible. So every once in a while, just peek down. Make sure you're getting good contact. And one good thing about, or what I like to do when I'm loading 9mm, it's easy to have a 380 case mixed in this. I mean, super easy. And it's hard to identify, you know, through 2,000 cases, what's a 380 and what's the 9mm. Or, you know, it could be a 9x21 or whatever they do. But anyway, the 380 to me is the toughest one to find. I usually find it 99% of the time when I'm decapping and resizing. Every single time. It will fit in the shell holder. You will go up. It will decap it, but you won't have any resistance whatsoever. And the reason why is because the 9mm is tapered. You know, it holds the 380 bullet, the 355 bullet at the neck of it. But as it goes to the head, to the base of it, it's tapered and it's wider here. So you won't have that sizing resistance you have with a 9mm, and you'll just feel a quick decap, and it'll decap it real quick. And as soon as I feel that, I know immediately, hey, I've got a bad case or I've got a 380 case. And then that's sorted out in another pile, and I'll throw those out. I've not found a ton of 380, you know, because most people don't shoot 380 because it's so expensive. I've probably got maybe 100 or so cases, you know, and probably 2 or 3 years. You know, I've just kind of stuck somewhere and saved. I don't even know where they're at now. But I don't shoot a 380. I had one before, but I've gotten rid of it. But that's the easiest way to check to see if if you got one. I'm just going to oil this ram up a little bit. I need to clean my press. It's a shame, you know. I said when I got this new press, I was like, I'm not going to let this one get as dirty as my last one, but you know what? It's beginning to look like it. I don't know where that squeaking's coming from. Maybe coming from the linkage. So far I'm pleased with this press. Because I think that's coming from the linkage. Just drop a little bit here and there on the linkage. See if that'll cure that horrible screech we're hearing. Probably better that I use graphite, but yeah, I think it was the linkage. Let that oil work in. And I probably should use a heavier weight oil than that. But hey, that's what we got right now. Man, it's amazing how many manufacturers they are of ammunition now. Used to, you go to the range, you know, you just got your Winchester, Remington, all that cool stuff. But there's all kinds of, I see all kinds of head stamps now. So I'm gonna have to do some major sorting here and inspecting. Oh, man. So I've probably maybe done 100, maybe 200. And I wear gloves. Wear your gloves. I know it can be a little cumbersome. I'm still getting good contact with that shell plate, so that's good. And after you, if you're using a Lee press and it uses this little priming arm, always clean that afterwards, because you'll get debris and trash and stuff like that right in that priming cup, and you don't want that in there when you're trying to prime. So always take this out, clean it afterwards, or at least before you start priming, if you're going to prime on press. So anyway, that's going to be a wrap for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. You can see I've got a lot of work to do. A lot of work, so I'm hoping to find a lot of nickel cases. I like those nickel cases. Anyway, enjoy yourself loading, be safe, and we'll catch you on the next video.